Welcome to this episode of the Conscious Business Coffee Break, where we take a few moments to explore what's happening in the conscious business movement, expand awareness, and encourage your efforts in conscious business. Greetings, everyone. I'm Stephen Donaco of the Conscious Business Enterprise, a division of humanities team. And on today's program, what it really takes for capitalism to be conscious. And the inspiration for today's program was a piece that I read in Jacobin magazine online, and I'll put the link into the piece subsequent to the video. But it's titled CEOs versus Workers. And basically, it's a recap of a town hall that occurred just this past Monday, July 16th, that U.S. Senator Bernie Sanders put together. And I'll also put a link to the YouTube video because the video is available online as well. And basically, the town hall consisted of a panel of 5 low-wage workers, one each from Amazon, American Airlines, Disney, McDonald's, and Walmart, and with the CEOs of those companies. Well, the attendance of the panelists, unfortunately, was lopsided because the workers all showed up. They sat on one side of the stage, and then on the other side of the stage were only 5 empty chairs, each tagged with the name of the respective but absent CEO. So Bernie Sanders had invited these executives to participate in the discussion, but none of them accepted the offer. So those 10 chairs then represented 10 people. There were 5 workers struggling to make ends meet, and then there were 5 indifferent bosses, or what we quote unquote will call leaders, who were, according to the article, too preoccupied to bother attending and too powerful to be compelled. When the workers were interviewed about their conditions at work, the American Airlines employee said she works 12-hour days. She supplements her paycheck with food stamps, and she described the humiliation of being in the social services line with her coworkers. And she added that the most disturbing part of all this is that we work for a company that is extraordinarily successful. And this is sort of a theme with all of these companies. The Walmart worker who was on the panel said many people have to walk an hour or more to the store because they can't afford a bus fare to get there. In 1 year, at a Walmart, the company set out collection boxes for employees to donate food to each other during the winter holidays. And Bernie Sanders said, this is happening at, quote, a company owned by one of the richest families in the world, unquote. The Disney employee told the story of a coworker who died sleeping in her car after working for Disney 6 days a week for 10 years. The person never actually even had a home. And then Bernie Sanders notes that Disney recently gave Disney's CEO a $423 million compensation package. And then the Amazon employee worked in the warehouse, and he talked about working 10 hours a day, 4 days straight, just walking, not allowed to sit down. And there have been articles, pretty visible articles in publications like the New York Times that talks about the working conditions at Amazon. This employee said that the employees were not allowed to talk to each other. Every movement is tracked, and worker performance is measured daily against what he calls impossible standards. And this person is not lazy. He's a Navy veteran, and he said he always fell at least 20% short of his mark, even on days where he felt his performance was high. So the system is gamed so that employees simply can't. They don't have the stamina to perform against those standards or even get close to meeting them. The Amazon employee described reaching his own breaking point, and when he was asking himself, is this the best my life is ever going to get while I'm still here? And he had developed suicidal thoughts, which eventually compelled him to leave the company. He says, quote, there's no work environment that should make you feel like that. And then Bernie Sanders noted that this is happening at a company where the CEO's wealth increases $275 million every single day. So if it isn't already evident to you as I talk about this story, uh, this is not conscious business. These five companies absolutely are not practicing conscious business. Uh, the article goes into some more discussion of the dynamics of capitalism and socialism. But what I want to underscore here is that these systems, in and of themselves, cannot be conscious. It's the consciousness of the people, not the systems, but the people in them, that determines the values of the systems. Now, however, the demands and the expectations of those systems will influence the values of the people in them. So it's sort of a type of mesmerism. So, for instance, the demands and expectations of capitalism make it easy for CEOs to behave non-consciously. Now, halfway through that town hall, Bernie Sanders showed a video clip of Jeff Bezos of Amazon discussing his own personal fortune, saying, quote, "The only way I can see to deploy this much financial resource is by converting my Amazon winnings into space travel." Now, that's a completely non-conscious statement in my estimation. There's a saying that the more you have, the more is expected from you. And this doesn't mean expected by shareholders or the market. It means that the more you have, the more is expected of you as a benevolent human being. Now, Otto Scharmer, who does some important work in the conscious business movement, uh, refers to an illustration of Galileo looking up into the heavens with his telescope. And Otto asks, what if instead Galileo pointed the telescope towards himself? And the analogy here is about the essential exploration of the inner self. And with all due respect to the virtue of expanding our interest and knowledge of space, we have plenty of good work to do here on Earth and within ourselves before we're worthy even to colonize other habitable planets, whenever that even becomes possible. Let's get it right here on Earth first before we go off and think about colonizing other places. So put another way, there are plenty of worthy and necessary opportunities on Earth to, quote, deploy this much financial resource, unquote, in the words of Jeff Bezos. So as human beings, foremost, these CEOs of these five companies and all businesses have an existential responsibility to be working on themselves, to expand their own consciousness, and to become truly benevolent human beings rather than wholly self-interested ones. And it's only then that we can regard capitalism as having a chance at being conscious. So as it relates to the Conscious Business Declaration, a couple of principles here at work. One is that we are one with humanity and all of life. Business and all institutions of the human community are integral parts of a single reality, interrelated, interconnected, and interdependent. And then principle number 3, business must go beyond sustainability and the philosophy of do no harm, including social harm, to restoring the self-renewing integrity of the earth and of humanity. And then principle 5, business must behave as a proactive and positive member of the local and global communities in which it operates. So there you have it on today's Conscious Business Coffee Break. A lot to think about there, and I know with the interest of those of you who tune into this, because I regard you as conscious business people, conscious consumers, and then conscious citizens of humanity. I appreciate your contributions, however that you are expressing them in your work and in your world. So have a great weekend, everyone. We'll see you next week on Wednesday, 9 a.m. U.S. Central Time for another edition of the Conscious Business Coffee Break. Have a great day, everybody.